deposit back, and I'm totally okay with that.
I'm at Home Depot because I'm doing another elaborate project in my rental apartment, and you're all gonna be pissed about it, but it's gonna be cute, so watch.
Now today we're going to be going over a topic that was hinted at a little bit in a previous comment from one of you guys, and I wanted to look into it a little bit more myself. And that's renovating your apartment that you are renting. They do not own it. They are not the landlord making changes for the tenant. They are the tenant. And people are putting quite a bit of money into these renovations, and I get it. People want their place to feel like home and decorate it and make it cozier, I know. But that has been taken to a whole nother level in this video. It's definitely not cheap and just kind of throwing money into a fire when it's time to move out, or just straight up illegal because people are renovating without the landlord's permission. It's honestly just a complete mess of a situation, so we're going to be going over some clips. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, but we're going to start off with one that's a little bit lighter of an example before we get into the crazy stuff.
Our first home project of the year using these peel and stick wall trim by Luxe Architectural Molding turned out so amazing. You simply peel to expose the adhesive and you stick it right onto your wall. No power tools, no wood cutting, no nail guns, simply unbox, peel and stick. It took us about an hour to do our wall, and the next day we went around the trim with caulking for a more permanent finish. Then we painted the trim the same white color as our walls, and this is how it turned out. We completely transformed our entryway and it turned out so beautiful. It's an easy weekend project and you can do it too.
Okay, so right off the bat, I'll be honest, this doesn't look bad until you realize that none of the clips that we're going to see in these videos are owned by the people making them. So even though some of these DIY renovations are renter friendly, which means a lot of stuck-on molding like we saw right there, still doesn't mean that this is particularly cheap. And at the same time, whenever you do end up moving out, if the landlord doesn't like it, even though it is technically removable, it's not like it's the easiest thing to do. But we could look at the comments here. $435 is insane for peel and stick. The cost for these is just insane. I'll just buy the wood and cut 45s, almost $1,000 for that wall in total. I hope the glue stays in place for a long time. So like I said, I know it looks better than just a blank wall. You might have to run it by the landlord still because they also painted. That could also be against the rules for some people. And then taking it down, losing almost $1,000 for that accent wall, I don't really know if it's that worth it to me. So there's a lot of trends on TikTok like the clip I'm putting up right now where they just have music in the background. They show the before and after the kitchen I rented versus the kitchen I made. But if you start looking at all the details, it's not just random plants and painting the cabinets and maybe a little peel and stick accent wall. If you see, there's a brand new sink as well. Again, these are not free. I don't know what you'd really do with that when you'd move out other than just leaving it in, probably be the easiest, but that's just a complete sunk cost for something that you don't own at all. I know many people's arguments that they are long-term renters and that they want their apartment to look as nice as possible. And I get that, but I feel like it's to a point because of course you're paying a monthly rent to go to the landlord and then on top of it making their property better free of charge, while most likely in today's world having an increased rent almost every single year really just doesn't seem like a good deal to me. And in the end would make it harder for you to actually be able to move out, to maybe get a down payment on a single family home and out of the renter's life. But we can look at some of the comments. Oh, you're renting and doing all this? The landlord better appreciate it. They do. I mean, I would if I was a landlord getting a free renovation. Who would really say no? Unless you start seeing some of the messy stuff we'll get to in a little bit. But we also have a little niche of people who are making videos almost rage bait with clips like this, making permanent changes to my apartment without asking my landlord.
I'm at Home Depot because I'm doing another elaborate project in my rental apartment, and you're all gonna be pissed about it, but it's gonna be cute, so watch.
Okay, so the whole rest of the video doesn't really show too much, but this particular page would probably hope that the landlord wouldn't see her videos, because if you look at the description here, apartment DIY, hashtag bad tenant, and the comment section isn't much better. This is what we pay a security deposit for, so it's okay. I mean, I know it's a hot button issue right now with landlords and people owning a whole ton of properties and not being able to afford homes right now, but I feel like this would probably only make the situation worse. I guess because if you expect you're not going to get your deposit back, you could just do whatever you want to the place, while also not being free. I can't reiterate that enough. This costs the people who are already renting even more money. Even if it is DIY and it's cheaper, it's still not free. They could literally take you to court for this. Even if you consider it improvements, they can sue. This is why rent is so expensive. It's not your home and you don't own it. Ask for permission or find ways to do it so so it can be removed. And then you could just see the reply from the creator, and she's made a whole series of TikToks that are, again, probably rage bait. She gets a good amount of engagement compared to her other videos, but she still ends up making these changes to the apartment, just honestly not being allowed to. If it's improving the property quality, you could ask for it to be taken out of your rent. Honestly, why would you do it? The amount of money wasted. I feel like the other comments just add on to the issue where you will have crazy requirements if you do want to rent in certain areas, 3.5 times the monthly rent for your income, all the background checks, credit scores, the hoops you have to go through. And I feel like this is part of the problem. As long as a landlord is pretty much uninvolved and shows little interest in being a landlord, I don't see the problem. But then we could finish off this little saga when my landlord asked me if my rent check is in the mail, but he doesn't know that I'm moving out on the 31st and not paying him. And then you wonder why there's so many problems between renters and landlords now. You remodel the house without asking, that costs you extra money, and then you just leave without any notice, not paying and disappearing, changing the property. So we could get a little bit more in depth on this issue with a lawyer's perspective.
Lawyer's
I'm
reaction.
not getting my deposit back, and I'm totally okay with that. I'm not getting my deposit back, and I'm totally okay with that. I'm not getting my deposit back, and I'm totally...
Obviously, if you break it, you're gonna have to fix it. But recently, we've been seeing an interesting trend where some tenants don't care about losing their security deposit if that means that they can remodel their dwelling themselves. And of course, legally speaking, a landlord can still sue a tenant if their security deposit is not enough to fix the damages. But of course, some people don't care because they don't have any money. So if a landlord goes after them, there's really not much that they can do.
Maybe they don't have too much money because they renovated the entire house to be purple and pink. I mean, even the toilet, that was just absolutely hideous. Some of the comments, I understand painting, but full-on remodeling is crazy. And good luck finding a new place with a major gap in your rental references. Can we tie tenant credit card to lease agreements? I mean, that sounds pretty insane to me, but I don't know what the future holds. I can also imagine the landlord can garnish your wages, so not having any money is going to hurt you even more after that. And another person talking about the wage garnished, I mean, this could get way worse than just losing your money out of a remodel for something you don't own.
But ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake, there is something that the landlord could do. If you intentionally destroy property that you do not own with the intent, knowing that your security deposit is not going to cover the damage, and you have no intention of restoring the property to its original condition, that is a crime known as vandalism. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is destruction of property to remodel your landlord's property, that is someone else's property, without their permission, all while having no intention to restore it because, after all, you're just gonna lose your deposit. There are cases where tenants have been charged for the intentional destruction of property. So before you decide to go ahead and remodel property that belongs to somebody else, just remember that not only could you be held civilly liable for the damages that happen next, but you could also be found guilty for vandalism and destruction of property.
So I know that was pretty over the top, but a lot more can happen than you think. And of course, because this does become a trend on TikTok, you'll have people doing the exact same types of videos because it garners some attention online. Those likes, those views, those followers are like a drug, and it could be taken as far as you going to court for these videos. But we have a comment from one of you guys on the flip side of basically getting scammed while doing renovations from the landlord. My landlady let me move into one of these dirty places, and the deal was that if I cleaned it up, swapped out the carpets, and put in a new kitchen and toilet, and in return she wouldn't raise the rent where I lived. After I made the place livable, she raised the rent, and after 2 more years when I moved out, she had the audacity of asking me to rip out one of the new floors because she didn't like the color. I was 8 months pregnant at the time and so over, I told her to keep my deposit and never contact me again. So this comment was doing it for a deal instead of willingly wanting to do it to make their apartment nicer in their eyes, or possibly for TikTok views, and she ended up losing a ton of money with the rent still being raised along with the renovations and not getting her security deposit back. I mean, there's not much more ways you could lose in that situation. That's just brutal.
Just because you're a renter doesn't mean you can't renovate your space. And stop skipping out on those apartments just because you don't like the cabinet colors. Instead, change them with the Design Foley DC Fix contact paper. This contact paper was incredibly easy to use, especially with the grid measurements on the back. It made measuring and cutting to size incredibly straightforward and helped me keep the lines straight.
Okay, so when we start looking up a lot of the DIY renter friendly, a lot of the stuff that could be peeled off almost like wallpaper, that also comes with its own problems as well. Like the first clip, it wasn't cheap. It ended up being almost $1,000 at the end of the day for one single wall. And here, this is a substitution for just painting the cabinets because you might not be allowed to from the landlord. We look at some of the comment sections. Nope, the removing of contact paper is hell. Bye-bye deposit, or you could just paint them, which is faster and probably cheaper. Again, most likely wouldn't be allowed to then by the landlord, but trying to take all of this off when you move out will not be a good time, and you could still end up losing your security deposit and more money.
I can't believe this is 100% renter friendly. My primary bathroom was looking very gray and very unexciting, so we are gonna warm it up and give it a relaxing spa vibe. I'm only focusing on the vanity wall, and I'm using some leftover paint that ties back in with the bedroom. Then I was inspired by this photo to use a wavy trim, so that's exactly what we're gonna do here. I made a template and then I cut out the first panel. I'm using a faux woven wallpaper that has a lot of texture, and once I got up the first panel, I was able to line up the rest and then cut it after I applied it. This definitely was a little bit tricky to do, but in the end we got there. And we couldn't just leave that alone. I wanted to finish up the edge, so I'm using a peel and stick trim. This is super flexible. It's also removable, so I was a little bit afraid that it wouldn't hold up on the wall since this is such a curvy pattern, but it actually worked out pretty well. I added a grid to my shower with just some black tape, which I think just elevates it so much more. Then it was time to put everything together with some cute decor and a shelf, and oh my god, you guys, this feels like a completely different space. It is so inviting and calming now, and I cannot wait to do my skincare in here.
The last sentence right there, I can't wait to do my skincare here. Kind of sounds like she'll be one of the makeup gurus on TikTok trying to shell out every single product to you. But I mean, top comment here, how is painting your wall renter friendly? If you get the okay from your landlord, then it's all good to go. I know a lot of people like to decorate, like I said before, but even in the realm of it being DIY, it's not like you had anybody else there doing this for you. Doesn't really make it free. And even if you are a long-term renter, I don't know, it kind of gets to a point, at least in my opinion, where it's just not really worth it. And then you have some clips like this where some of the tenants are definitely not as good as the clips we saw. Non-paying tenants tried to replace door frames without landlord's permission and did it poorly and just absolutely mangled one of the doors. So I mean, this could go horribly wrong. Say if I tried to do exactly what the woman did in the previous clip with the wavy accents on her bathroom, I guarantee I will not make it look as good as hers. So seeing all these videos online and being inspired to do the same thing, it might not turn out exactly how you want it. But we're gonna finish off with a clip from a landlord that this will probably end up happening to a majority of the people doing this to their apartments.
So this video is part 2 of a tenant that did unauthorized improvements on a rental property. So this tenant moved into the rental property, did some improvements that were not authorized by us. Her lease specifically states that she cannot do improvements without our approval. She put hardwood floors in the kitchen, not laminate flooring, but actual hardwood floors in the kitchen. She also changed the countertop to a granite countertop, and she changed the cabinet. So she did a remodel on the full kitchen. Now, normally this would be great, and I would say, hey, you know, that's great that you did these improvements and everything else. Well, she did them, we didn't know about them, and she's been there for about 2 years. I'm not exactly sure when she did the improvements, but now we've gotten to a point where she's moving out of the property. She decided she wants to go someplace else, and she's looking for her security deposit back. My issue with that is that we didn't tell her to do these improvements, and I've got to change the property back. I'll explain in the next video why.
So all of this seems to be a free way to get a security deposit from these tenants. Even if you liked it like the hardwood floor, I bet he's allowed to do this. Even the comment that we saw from you guys getting completely scammed. On top of you paying for the renovations yourself, it just seems like a waste of money at the end of the day. All the comments basically say the same thing. Sounds like an excuse to keep the deposit. So I mean, if you really enjoy doing this that much, I'd probably end up looking into being some sort of interior decorator, or just waiting until you have enough money to do this on your own property. I know that's a lot easier said than done. I'm not just saying, oh, just go buy a single family house. You know, it's only $400,000 on average. But if you are on that journey right now, doing a whole bunch of renovations to a place you don't even own, will definitely not help you complete it. So that's all I got for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. YouTube thinks you'll like this video popping up on screen right now, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, and I'll talk to you guys later.